One last thing before we start actually coding using AngularJS is the section when we actually displaying the records which we've added to the database already. So after the closing form tag, we're going to create another form. This time, the ID of this form will be items. And as you may remember, in our style sheet, we have already created definitions for all these items inside of this container. So if I scroll up a little bit, create a few new lines here so we can see things a little bit clearer. Okay, and inside of the items, we're going to start with a div with the class row again. We close this one. Inside of the row, we're going to create another div with the class small-8 columns. I'm just going to explain in just a second. I'm going to explain how it works actually. Item name. And now this time, as you can see, rather than large 8, we've selected small. There's also medium option. Small 8 means all of the devices, small, medium, and large. Basically, the lower the definition, like small for instance, that means that all from this size up apply the same width of the column. So let's say if I put medium here, -8, then all tablets and desktops would have 8 columns, but small would have the column at full width, basically. So that's how it works in Foundation. But again, if you are using your own styling, obviously, you can do it in a completely different way. So we've got this item name here as well as a class. And inside of this one, we're going to create a label for, and we're going to leave for as item hyphen and question mark for the time being. This will be replaced later on with something. Now inside of this label, we go for the input. And input, I'm going to put attributes on separate lines. Type will be checkbox. This is where actually our checkbox, which selects the completed item, comes into place. Then we go for the name and we go for item hyphen question mark again. Then we go for the ID, item hyphen question mark as well. Then we can actually close this input because that's everything for the time being. We will get back to this a little bit later on, but for the time being, that's just the structure of our page, obviously. So I've got this label. After the closing div tag for this small 8 column, if we scroll up, we create another div with a class small-2 columns, and then we go for item QTY for item quantity, and this is where item quantity will be displayed. So for the time being, just a question mark. I'm going to copy this entire div, because the other one will have also 2 columns only, so small 2 columns. Rather than item quantity, it's going to be item type. And the question mark for the time being, just as a placeholder. And that's the structure of our page done. Now if we save it and preview in a browser, if we refresh our page, as you can see, we've got just one item, which obviously doesn't have any label yet, and only question marks as placeholders. We can also put the placeholder here actually for the label representing the item. So if we go back to the editor, scroll up, and after the input tag, basically, let's put the question mark here as well. So save it, go to the browser, refresh, and there we go. This is where the label for the item will be. Basically, whatever we type here is going to be put here. Then weight is going to be going in this column, and obviously, whether it's kilograms or quantity or whatever else you might have used in a table, is going to be displayed in the last third column.